We have 405 people currently watching, so that's a huge crowd. Thank you very much again. So on the deck, we're just kind of generally talking about agenda. We're going to discuss about the outlook on the first part of this session. How can we tame your inbox, or how can we make it better? And then we're gonna slide into how do we turn those emails into actions. That's where we join hands between Outlook and To Do. Um, and we're going to talk more about To Do there, and we're going to walk through what is To Do Hub. And finally, we'll also slightly talk about how can we make those smarter decisions with Copilot. So stay tuned.
So as Naveen mentioned, we're from Microsoft. My name is Michelle Checky. I'm one of the senior cloud solution architects at Microsoft. So what I want to talk with you about today is really how to tame your inbox. There are a lot of lesser known features in Outlook that we're going to be covering today. And my hope is that as you are going through this, um, that you'll be able to take some actionable items with you back to your day-to-day work. So we are going to be covering 6 built-in tools, and we're going to talk about the focused inbox. We're going to talk about some rules that are going to help automate moving data out of your inbox into other folders in your Outlook. We're also going to talk about a feature that I personally use a ton at Microsoft, and that's the categories and being able to color code your emails or your calendar entries. If you've got a calendar that's as busy as mine is, this is a godsend. A couple other features we're going to be talking about. A feature called Sweep. If you're taking a summer vacation and you come back into the office and you look at your mailbox and you are overwhelmed, and a lot of that messaging might be newsletters or data that you just don't care about right now. Sweep is going to help you clear out that data from your mailbox so that you can focus on what's important. We're also going to talk about the archive feature. Your mailbox comes equipped with an online archive, so you can move data that maybe you still need to have access to. You might want to be able to search, but you don't need it in your inbox. You can move it over to that archive. A couple other features we'll be covering, quick steps. This is something that can be similar to rules, but rather than having it run automatically, you get to decide when the quick steps run. And then I know Vijay mentioned during the opening keynote scheduling send. So I felt like he stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'm going to show you how to actually do that today. So if you've never scheduled a send, you've got an email that you want to land in people's inboxes at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, and you don't want to risk, being late on your commute, having your alarm not work. You need that message in inboxes at 9 o'clock. Scheduling Send is going to do that. There's also a feature called Snooze that you may be interested that we'll cover. So if you've got important email that you know you need to deal with later, you just can't work on it right now, you can snooze it. It can come back and remind you at a later date. So with that, I am going to switch over to my demo tenant, and hopefully technology will behave for us. And let me share out my demo tenant with you. All right. So you should be seeing my Outlook client on the screen here, and you can see I've received a ton of email here within Outlook. I'm a busy person. I'm preparing for this North Carolina summit. I've got a couple top secret projects, Project Jupiter, Project Obsidian that I'm dealing with. And this is a lot of email that just came in about all three of those topics, and I need to get a handle on this. So I do want to start first with this focused inbox that you see here. You'll notice here you have the focus tab. You've also got this other tab. So if I am working in my focused inbox and I am looking through all of my emails, and I see things like these alerts that, they're important. I want to have notification about these alerts, but I don't want them cluttering up my focused inbox. I do have an option here where I can right click on that message and I could tell it to move it. And then I could tell it to always move it to the other inbox. So when this message comes in the next time, any messages from this sender, they're not going to be right here in my focused inbox. This has gone through not only taken that message, but any other messages from that sender. and it's moved them over to this other tab. You might run into the opposite situation where there are newsletters that are important to you. And you're like, well, why isn't that showing up in my inbox anymore? You might find it over here on the other tab. So if you run into a situation where you are finding email that is important to you, that's showing up on the other tab, you can do the exact same thing that we just saw in the focused inbox. So I could take this security notification here that we're looking at, and I can right click on it and go to move. And I could tell it, you know what, for these messages, I always want them in my focused inbox. I don't want to have to go hunting for them. So here we'll do this. It's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to move all of those messages back over to focused? I'm going to tell it, yeah, because that's an important security message for me. I need it in my focused inbox. I don't want to miss that communication. So you can see it is grabbing a ton of emails here now from my focused in, or from my other, moving them right over into my focused inbox. So I'll be able to find them there and I won't have to wonder where on earth they went to. All right, so that is our focused inbox. Next, we're going to talk about our rules. So one of the things that I love to do with rules is if I receive emails from my manager, I don't want to miss those messages. So I could have a rule that flags that message for me. I could move it into another folder. I could mark it as unread so that that folder's highlighted. I could go back to it. I'm going to show you that here with this Project Jupyter launch email. So you'll notice over here, I have specific folders for Project Jupyter, for Project Obsidian. I might want all of my messages related to Project Jupyter to end up in this folder so that I don't lose them in my inbox because I'm receiving so many emails. So here, I am going to right click on this and I'm going to go to rules and I'm going to tell it to create a rule. And when you do this, it's initially going to come up with a really quick wizard where you could say, you know what, if it comes from Joni, we want it to be moved to a specific folder. I might have some communications with Joni about things that are not Project Jupyter related. So what I'm going to do here is rather than just say if it's from Joni, we're moving it, I'm going to click on more options. And this is going to give you the full wizard. And I'm going to update this to say all emails about Project Jupyter. So I'm going to add another condition in here. I add another condition, maybe. Here we go. We've got our drop down here. What I'm looking for here is subject includes. And I'm going to tell it if that subject includes Project Jupyter, I want it moved to that folder. I don't care if it came from Joni, so I'm going to click the X here. We've got our rule here looking for Project Jupyter. Now I have to tell this what are we going to do. And in this case, I just want to move it to a different folder. So I'm going to tell it we're going to go ahead and move it. And we're going to move it into that Project Jupyter folder. I want to run this on my inbox right now. So it's going to take everything with Project Jupyter in the subject line, and it's going to move it over to that Project Jupyter folder. So I'll go ahead and tell this to save. And then in the background, it's going to start running right now. We can see here it's moving a bunch of messages, 13 messages over here into my Project Jupyter folder. Now in the future, anytime I receive a new message that's got Project Jupyter in the subject line, this rule is going to run automatically. I don't need to come back to this rule unless I want to change it. And all messages regarding Project Jupyter are going to be nicely organized in that folder for me so that I don't lose them in my inbox. All right, next, we're going to cover categories. So another thing that you may want to do, you'll notice here with my Project Obsidian marketing email, it's got this little green tag on it. Go ahead. Oh, that is a fantastic question. Let me go back to that rule on Project Jupyter. I'll show you what we can do. So if I come into my rules, I'm going to tell it manage rules. I'm actually just going to edit this rule. We could say rather than the subject includes, you do have an option to say the subject or the body includes. Now you can also look for just keywords, specific sender addresses. You have a lot of options within here. Go ahead. It will not duplicate the email for you and send it to both folders. What it's going to look at is the order of your rules. And you'll notice on this rule, I did tell it to stop processing. So if it saw Project Jupiter, it's not going to look at the Project Obsidian rule. It's just going to move that over into Project Jupiter. So in that case, you need to kind of think about the logic behind the two and what's going to make the most sense as to which folder you want that email moved to. If you did end up in that situation, you do have the option to make a copy of that email manually and then put it in the Project Obsidian folder. Go ahead. Yeah, in this case, it's specific to Project Jupiter because it's using both of the words together. Had I broken it down into separate, where I said I'm looking for the word project or I'm looking for the word Jupiter, it might be overzealous. It might start grabbing all of my project email and moving it into that folder. You do not. Yep. Great questions. All right. Let me let's talk about the categories. So I know I mentioned in my intro, my calendar is a train wreck. I am double, triple booked on a regular basis. It can be really difficult for me to figure out what meetings are really important, what meetings I really need to be in that I can't miss. So I'm a heavy user of categories, but folks can use categories on their email too. So this Project Jupiter, I could right click this and go to categories. Now I have already named a few of my categories here. You'll notice I've got purple category, red category, yellow category. If you have not used categories in the past, first time you go in, the categories are just going to be named the color of the category. You can come here and say manage categories, and then you can edit this and rename them. Not only can you rename them, you're not limited to this number of categories. You could create new categories. There are many other color options that you can choose, so you can color code your categories. Not only that, if you're somebody who loves keyboard shortcuts, you could give a keyboard shortcut to a category so you can save your fingers from carpal tunnel. You won't have to do all those right clicks and then other clicks to select the category. You could just hit the control key and one of the function buttons, and it would, because you've mapped it to that, it's going to use that category. So to actually apply that category, if you're not doing the function keys, you can right click, you could categorize, and then because this is Project Jupiter, I'm going to give it that Project Jupiter category. We can see here now it's got that blue flag on it. I can search for anything that's Project Jupiter category. So let's say your rule didn't fire off. Maybe Project Jupiter wasn't mentioned in the subject or the body, but you know that email's related to Project Jupiter. You could use that category as well as moving it into that Project Jupiter folder. On the calendar side of things, you can color code your calendar. It's kind of hard to tell with these two blues, so I'm going to go to my next week where I've got a bunch of Project Obsidian meetings, and you can see here I've right-clicked on that meeting. I've categorized it as Project Obsidian. So if I had a very busy calendar week this week, I would see that green color code and I would say, you know what, Project Obsidian is really important. I can't miss that meeting. And if I'm double booked at that point in time, just by a glance at that color, I know which call I need to be on. All right, so that covers our rules. We're going to talk about sweep and archive next. Go ahead. Gosh, let me see if I can add another calendar in here. I'll pick on Johanna. So right now I've got mine set so the calendars are separate. If you were overlaying them, you can actually select what color Johanna's calendar is going to show up in here. So you do have this option to give Johanna's calendar items their own color. You'll notice these are a little bit more bold colors than what we saw for the categories. So that's how we tried to account for that. You'll see those other calendars as a bold color versus this sort of opaque color that we're seeing. In the back, go ahead. It does. Yep, you'll be able to see those categories and use them in Outlook on the web as well. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, folks online. So some of the questions that you missed, folks were asking, what if you have a second calendar? What if you have someone else's calendar open? How can you tell their calendar entries from the colors that you have categorized? And I still have this up here on Johanna's calendar. You could see much bolder colors here for Johanna's calendar entries that I can select versus the category that I used here for Project Obsidian. The last question that was asked is, if you are using those categories on the web or in your Outlook, are they going to work in the desktop client as well as in Outlook on the web? The answer is yes. It is going to sync. You'll have access to them in both places. So it doesn't matter how you work, where you work from, those categories are going to be there for you. From your inbox, yep. Yep. Yeah. You are welcome. All right, so we're going to come back to my inbox. I want to show you the sweep in the archive. So let's say you just got back from vacation and you sit down and you look at your inbox and you think, oh my gosh, this is a train wreck. How am I going to get through all of this irrelevant data and focus on the stuff that I need to do to get my work done? That's where sweep comes in. So I'm going to scroll back down here in my inbox to some of these messages that maybe aren't so important to me. So I can select this office alerts message, and up here on my ribbon, it's kind of hard to see here, but there is this icon that looks like a broom. This is your sweep icon. When I click on this, I'm going to get a pop-out menu to ask me, what do I want to do with all of those alert messages that are in my inbox? Or what do you want to do with all those newsletters or that irrelevant data? So you have the option to say, hey, I just want to move all of these messages except for the latest message. I want to move all these messages and future messages. I want to keep messages that are newer than 10 days. When you're doing this, you can decide where those messages going to go. So you may not want them to go to your deleted items. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to just call it newsletters. And we'll sweep all of these alerts into that newsletters folder, except for the latest message. I'll keep that latest one just in case it's important and I need to look at it. But I'm not losing these messages. I'm just getting them out of my inbox so I can focus on what I need to. And so here it's going to go through. It's swept all of those messages into my newsletters folder. So that is your sweep. Your archive is also another feature that'll help clean out your inbox. So let's say Project Obsidian is ended. I'm sorry, go ahead. You can use an existing folder. If it's something that you're like, gosh, I don't even care about this, you could tell it just sweep it to deleted items because I'm never going to read it. Yep. So for folks on the call, the question was for the sweep feature, do you need to have a folder set up? If you want it to go somewhere other than deleted items, then yeah, you do want to set up the folder that you want it moved into. All right, so archive. Let's say Project Obsidian has completed. I could right click on this Project Obsidian and I could tell it to archive. And that will move it over here into my archive folder. Depending on the rules, it's going to move it over into your actual archive mailbox at a later date. Still going to be online, still going to be searchable, going to maintain your folder structure for you. It's just not going to be filling up your inbox. Yeah, go ahead. Between the archive and the sweep feature? Or the move feature? Oh, so the difference between the move feature and the sweep, I would say, functionally, they're both going to move emails. But this move feature, if I'm just doing move here, I'm going to tell it to move it into a specific folder based on an individual message, or I'm going to tell it to always move it to the other or the focus mailbox. Where sweep, you can say, just get all of it out of my mailbox rather than that one individual message, or, any messages that are older than 10 days, get them over here into this folder out of my inbox. So slightly different functionality, but ultimately they're going to be moving the messages around your mailbox. Go ahead. Correct. Correct. Yep. So sweep is not necessarily, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes. So sweep and archive, sweep is going to move the data. You don't have to move it to deleted. You can move it to whatever folder you want. Archive's going to move it into your archive mailbox. So the big thing, and I don't want to get too into the technical weeds, your primary mailbox has a limited amount of space. You probably are going to be hard pressed to hit the amount of space that is in your primary mailbox. But if you've been with the state for a while, if you're somebody who gets a lot of emails with large attachments, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that your primary mailbox would fill up, and then you're going to be really sad because you won't be able to send or receive email. So getting the old data that you're no longer actively working on over into your archive mailbox, that's going to free up space, but you're still going to be able to find that data when you need it. Thank you. Yep. Excellent. Yeah. For folks on the line or in the room who couldn't hear, sounds like your archive policy for the state is that anything older than 1 year automatically gets moved for you into that archive mailbox, maintaining that same folder structure. So let's say you had rules for your Project Jupiter or Project Obsidian. You're not going to lose that folder structure. When that data hits a year, it's going to get automatically moved into the archive mailbox in the same structure. Go ahead. Okay. It may not be in Classic. So you'll see it in Outlook on the web, though, because Outlook on the web and the new Outlook are using similar technology. So, all right. I just want to repeat for you folks online. So an audience member has gone through the process that we just saw with the sweep, and does look like it sweeps some of this stuff over, but it was definitely in the new Outlook, it looks like. So if you switch over to new Outlook, you should have that sweep capability. So the conversation here in the room, folks who are online, is each of your agencies and your divisions are going to have different security policies and requirements. Check with your IT team before you click that new Outlook button, because it might be grayed out. You might not have that functionality. If you're not seeing sweep, talk to your IT folks. All right. I've got 2 more things I want to show you here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Naveen so that he can show you stuff that's probably way cooler than just your basic Outlook. So quick steps. Quick steps are going to look really similar to rules, but as I mentioned during the intro, quick steps, you get to decide when they run. Rules are going to run automatically behind the scenes. So let's say I had this Project Obsidian emails that I'm working on. I could come up here on my ribbon and go to my quick steps. And I could say, you know what, I'm going to add a quick step for Project Obsidian. And here I get to choose what actions I'm going to have happen. So I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to always move this to our Project Obsidian folder. I don't even want to have to be bothered with categorizing it. So I'm going to tell it, we're going to automatically categorize this as Project Obsidian. And even if I read it, I want to mark it as unread. So when it's in that folder, I know that I need to go back and review it. So I'm going to leave this as this, but before I save it, do want to show you tons of other actions you can have it do here. So we tried to make this so that you can make those quick steps fit whatever your use case and need are. I'll just go ahead and say that we're going to flag this and say it's due next week. And I will save that. And then when I'm ready to run this, you can see I now have a Project Obsidian quick step. If you had created more than one quick step, they would show up here. You'd be able to click on this drop-down menu if you had a lot of them, and you'd be able to pick and choose which one you want to run. So I'll tell this, yep, we're going to run Project Obsidian against this. And if we come over to my Project Obsidian folder, we'll see it's categorized it. It's marked it on red. It is flagged to be due next week. So done all of that just from the click of a button for me. All right. The one last thing I want to show. Oh, go ahead. You can. Yep. Quick steps can be run from any folder in your mailbox on any message in your mailbox. It will only run on the messages you have selected within the folder. Yeah. No, if you wanted something like this to run against all messages, then you'd want to think about a rule, and it could do that for you automatically without you saying, let's do it on this particular message. If you've added the unread messages to your favorites, and I want to back up for folks online. So the question was, you've created all these folders, you've got these rules and quick steps, they're moving messages around into those folders, and those messages are unread. If you are someone who has added to your favorite folders that unread folder, it is going to pull up unread messages from across all folders in your mailbox. All right, my one last thing I want to show you, and this is going to kind of tie into what Naveen's going to present on, is the ability to flag messages. So if you receive a message and you want to set a due date, I could say, this is going to be due on a specific date. I know I need to deal with this on Monday. I'm going to say this is going to be due at 9 a.m. on Monday. And because I don't want to forget about it, I'm setting myself a reminder. So here I'm going to say, you know what, I'll remind myself at 8:30 that I need to start working on this at 9 a.m. Outlook's going to give me a pop-up reminder to say, hey, it's time to work on this message. This is also going to feed into your to-do, which Naveen will go into and show you a little bit more on that. If it was a message that maybe I didn't want to add to my to-do, I just wanted to be reminded later, I have this snooze option where I could say, you know what, we're going to snooze this until Monday at 9 a.m. All right. One final thing I want to show you all today, and that is the scheduled send. You've got that email that you need to show up in folks' inboxes at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. I'm going to go ahead and reply to Joni on this innovation subject and say that the draft was reviewed and ready to send. And then what I'm going to do is on my options tab, you have got this scheduled send option. I could say, we're not going to send that email today. We're sending it Monday. And I want to do it at 9 a.m., not at 8 a.m. So I'm going to click here and say we're going to customize that send time. Make sure that this message shows up in Joni's mailbox 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Outlook's going to save that and send it for you Monday morning. You don't even have to try to remember that you need to get that email out first thing because Outlook's got it covered for you. That was, yep. So if you are in your draft email, it's this options tab at the top of your ribbon. and then the scheduled send. All right. So let me get us back to our slide deck, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Naveen. We've covered a lot here. So on the Outlook side of things, we've gone over. Share. Have it one more time. Slide back up. There we go. So, who are we? All right. I'm going to hand it off to you then.
All right. Thank you very much, Michelle. That was great information. I know we're almost out of time. I just want to quickly go over this project, Obsidian. Now we are, let's say, it's kind of getting overwhelming response. There's lots of task nets that needs to be done. We probably need to bring in more people. So from mailbox management, now we want to focus on the task management. So task management might be your personal task management first, and also a project management, kind of bringing in other people's, kind of helping you on the project Obsidian. So there's this new tool that you can use called To Do. So let's just quickly go through that, how that works and how we can start putting in the real details into this, trying to get into due dates, assigning tasks to other person, bringing in more people into this project, and possibly expanding this to something called Microsoft Planner, where we can upload, files, you can bring in groups, and much more possibilities there. So here on the screen, let's say Project Obsidian, I just got dumped with a lot of the emails here, and I really want to skillfully track this, like who's who, what's happening here. So what you have is a tool called Microsoft To Do. In Outlook, it's automatically integrated in the left-hand side rail. You should see this arrow here. When you click on a To Do, this is where it will bring you to your To Do screen. It is a product on itself, but it is really tightly integrated with Outlook, Planner, all the task-based product line in M365. So you could just go ahead and start planning your own tasks. Like it might be personal tasks, it might be tasks related to projects, and start adding your task. Better yet, better than that, I want to add some Project Obsidian tasks because I want to be on top of that, okay? So here, there's a few things that you can do to bring this item onto that side called To Do. You can right click here, and when you go to Advanced Actions, there's a Create Task button. When you click that, then the task is going to show up on this end, okay? So this one right here just got added. This is the mail we just received. Well, you can do so many things with this task, right? Maybe you got like 15 or hundreds of tasks now. You really want to do a little bit of management of this task. So what you can do is you can go ahead and organize this a little bit. So to organize this, you can create something called a list. I created a list called Project Obsidian. I like everything that is related with the Project Obsidian. I want to park it here. So you can just go ahead and click the plus button, and then you can start pretty much dragging and dropping these things over to those things right here, okay? So here's a Project Obsidian project that I just created, like a task list that I created. And when you look at individual items, every item has its own story, right? Maybe this one, annual record retention training due this month. Now you can start assigning different values, like when is it due? Well, this is due tomorrow, okay? Do you want to do like a repeat of this task, or, well, do you want to assign it to someone else just than this? Because I think my hands are tied. Maybe I'm going on a vacation next week, but I still want to keep this in track. So I'm going to go and assign it to me, or you can assign it to a next person here. So you can also do like a mini project management before you turn it into your PMO, and they're going to run this thing like crazy. This is like your own mini task management thing here. So you can go ahead and click on Assign to Me. And like in the Outlook, you also have a category option here where you can like, I think we're good with this, so we're going to tag it as a blue category here. And you can also add additional files that might be related to this task. Maybe it's something that you want to upload it. Okay. You can also set a reminder on this task if you want to get reminded. When do you want to get reminded? These are the quick options, or you can pick a date and time here. Okay. So the lot of items that you can do with the individual task, which is part of a task list, which you can have a multiple list here, and you can get information from Outlook directly integrated here, and that will show up here. Okay. Well, I know we're out of time, but a few things here. My day can be really good. This is your dashboard. Like, hey, what are coming up on the right hand side here on the suggestions bar? Like, hey, this might be coming up due. This is later, earlier, however you want to do it. Recently added. This will just kind of give you your dashboard here. Okay. So that's the suggestion dashboard. You also have a different layouts if you want to play with that, grid layout or a list layout. If you want to add any additional task on your day that is completely aside from this Project Obsidian, you can also build your own task. And then you have your calendar, your reminder, your recurrence, like all kind of things going on here. Okay. Once you start adding this item in here, as you can see, they will start filling in this other navigation element on the left. Like, what are my planned items? These are targeted to like what's coming up next, maybe tomorrow, today, or next week. You can just quickly go and identify that. Assign to me is unique. You can, well, this integrates with something called Microsoft Planner. Okay. So if you want to, if you have a Microsoft Planner, let's say you want to go one step ahead of this, from to-do to planner, which is now can get really interesting with a lot of templates with project management. You can also now assign agents, like a lot of innovations happening on that end. So if you have any items on your planner and you assign a project, like I just create a whole new project here in a planner called Project Obsidian, and it is very engaging. Like, we have defined the buckets like planning and eligibility, application development, like tons of stuff happening here. If you assign something here, now that's going to show up on the to-do. So it's just like working back and forth. So to-do can be your middle personal task management before you kind of go along with the larger project management in planner. Okay. So going from the mailbox where you have a lot of noise, although you can manage that with a lot of great tools Michelle does showed you, you can now be really focused using a to-do. And if you want to further expand that, you can utilize Microsoft Planner. So they're really integrated with each other. And I think we're putting more and more innovations there. Another thing, last thing that I want to highlight here, when you go back to your mailbox again, when you hit on this flag here, when you flag something for, today, tomorrow, when you start flagging this, that thing also automatically appears under flagged. So flagged email shows up here. Okay. So you have different ways to kind of manage your workload. You want to turn it into a task. You want to turn it into a flagged email. You can now organize or integrate with a planner. So there's a lot of different ways you can work with this. Okay. With that, I'm going to stop here. Any questions? So, I mean, I think at this point you can do it in to-do, or better yet, if I think that everybody is leading towards Microsoft Planner now, because the Microsoft Planner lives inside the M365 group ecosystem. So if you have identified a group that you want to work with, now OneNote is part of it, Planner is part of it, your sites are part of it, your mailbox can be part of it. So the delegating out of right and the user permission can be really streamlined. So I would recommend utilize Planner. But if you have a small task item, you want to quickly take a look at it. This is my short note. I want to take care of a few stuff before I get on to the next one. Utilize today. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah, so Planner has a different tiers of licensing. With your G5 that we have, we get the basic standard planner capabilities right away. If you want to do a little bit more advanced, project management, there's like a plan 1, plan 2, plan 3 with the Microsoft project integrated, then yes, you're going to need a separate tier.